Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays weekly Q&A show, where I go through the questions from last week and answer whatever I can. Usually a pretty long video, so without further ado, let's get started right away this week. First question, hey Mrhappy, question for week 27. Are you ever planning to do a Twitch subscriber event again? Had a blast during Cards Against Humanity. Yes, I am. I'm not sure when yet. I still need to talk to Mel, my better half, about that and what we think we want to do and when would be a good time. I don't want to give any details, but yes, I do have more Twitch subscriber events planned in the future. Next question for week 27. Do you think our character's birthday or chosen deity will ever play a part in the game? Any ideas on what SE could do to make them useful? Don't expect any sort of like player advantages. Those are purely for role-playing purposes, for customization of your character. They do matter to some people out there, people who know more about the history of those things, but for the most part, they're probably never going to have a significance in your choice in terms of like stats and whatnot. Next one, Mrhappy1227, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hi Mrhappy, I am a fairly long-term player, completely restarting to join some friends. However, I found a fairly major issue. I stayed up all night on a weeknight and the server would not open at all. What do you think Square Enix may do to allow more players? After you buy the game and soon the expansion, people will be more than annoyed when they have to be up at 3 AM to even get a good chance to make a character. Sorry for the long question. Have a nice day, Happy. So that's the thing, you do have to be up. I mean, the general thing is, people are going to have to go to the other servers, the less populated servers, or you're going to have to make a character and pay for a server transfer, which bypasses the issue. I mean, I've played a lot of MMOs in my day, and it can be frustrating not being able to get on the server you want. But I've seen a lot of MMOs have that issue. The real big thing you can do to get over it is just make servers bigger. I don't think they'll do that. I think they want the population to start exploring the options of some of the less populated servers. And if people want to play together, they'll usually go out of their way to get that extra sort of condition in order to get into the servers. All right, this question has like 11 replies under it, so I'm assuming it was a bit of a heated topic. So, hey, Mrhappy, great videos, keep it up. On 2915, I heard you answer a question about leveling. What would you think if they allowed you to put experience towards any job you wanted without actually leveling it? For example, you could gain experience on your level 30 paladin while grinding your expert roulette as your black mage, or master crafting on your goldsmith to gain EXP for... The crafting one I'm actually okay with because of the way people level crafters anyway. I'm not a fan of that idea. I mean, I see a lot of people who they get their first job to level 50 and they're still in the process of learning to play that job. Taking away from the leveling experience would make even less understanding of a job. Now, don't get me wrong. Ways that you can level your jobs as it is don't exactly teach a job unless you're playing a tank or a healer, where you'll probably end up in dungeons a lot. The DPS jobs tend to just, you know, hit the fates, hit the leaves, and that doesn't really teach you how to play your job. So I don't really like the idea of taking that away from it even more, because then everyone will just play their tanks and their healers to level all of their DPSs and not even remotely touch the DPS ever. Especially if they're only doing it for cross-class abilities for whatever reason. So, I'm going to go ahead and say no. But on top of what I just said, where, you know, Fates and Leaves kind of already take away from that, hey, you want to learn your job while you're leveling and experience, I would like to see something sort of encourage you to learn it a little bit more. The class quests are one thing, but something that you're doing on a little bit more of a consistent basis. Next one, question for Mrhappy Monday 27. Happy, do you think Nomura would add Star Wars characters into Kingdom Hearts 3 now that it's a Disney property? And would you even want to see this? I guess we would see some characters from Frozen, maybe some other more recent decent properties in the game that anyone would want to see. Honestly, Kingdom Hearts is an anomaly for me because I've never thought, what Disney characters do I want to see in a game? At this point, with Kingdom Hearts, I want to just see the head honchos make their appearances as normal, and then I'm always appreciative of any surprises that the developers may have in store for us. There's nothing in particular. Star Wars also, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, enough. Like, that felt out of place as it was. You know, it ended up being an okay world in Kingdom Hearts 2, but Star Wars is a bit of a stretch. Don't get me wrong, I think a boss battle against the Emperor or Darth Vader would be pretty fun. But with the way the story is going, I don't even think there's really room to have that kind of adventure anymore, the traveling world to world. I feel like Kingdom Hearts 3 needs to be a little bit more grounded in its approach to the story and not just, hey, we got to go to all these different worlds for whatever reason and interact with these characters over and over again. I think the formula needs to change a little bit. Next one. Hey, Mrhappy127. Question for episode 27. What do you think will happen with the release of 3.0 to the old contents? With the new level cap, why should someone farm a primal EX to get an obsolete weapon? I'm a little scared about this. I hope they will introduce a new difficulty for the new cap, for example, Savage Mode. About the endgame, I think that 3.0 would no longer mind about the coil. Why spend time on FCOB if you don't need it to enter Alexander? And as for the primals, the drops will be obsolete too. Same thing for CT, Dungeons, Frontlines. Basically, what I'm understanding is you're having a hard time staying committed based on vertical progression, and the bottom line to your answer is old contents will be phased out. Yoshi P himself said that he wants expansions to bring a large amount of change to the game in a very short amount of time. So the reason why people would go back farming EX Primal to see if they could solo it, to farm for the extreme Primal mounts, and that's why a lot of content now is being laced with like minions and mounts and stuff. It's not necessarily just so people can farm it now. It's so that even in the future, if people want to go back and visit that content, there's more of a motivation. A good example is in World of Warcraft. There's a lot of mounts back from level 60, 70, 80 that people go back and they attempt to farm, and that's part of like their weekly thing, their weekly regimen that they do, whether it be they want to go farm a Baron mount, or they want to go try to farm, you know, Ashes of Alar, or any of the other mounts from the earlier games. It eventually, that old content ends up having some sort of value in some way or another. It's just that it's not on a, hey, everyone's going to be party finding and this is going to be part of the main progression. Basically, what's the point in doing FCOB now? To hone your skills for Alexander, to get better for Alexander, to make connections with people in preparation for the expansion. There's a lot of different things outside of the just playing the content. And also, you got to just remember, it's a game. You got to have fun with it. You can't be thinking about how your fun now will not be fun later. You just need to have fun now. Next one, question for this week, Mrhappy. It's so weird, I'm so used to people saying for week 27, but never mind. Speculation time. Perusing around, I see a lot more people with the Final Witnesses title, signifying a turn 13 clear. It seems almost everyone has a clear by now, myself included, but is this just because of the places I tend to hang around, or because a lot of people have cleared it? What's a reasonable guess as the percentage of players with FCOB done? 2 or 3%. And yeah, where you hang out and the server you're on definitely determines. But you have to remember, there's a lot of servers out there that have maybe only 1 or 2 groups that have cleared. A few of them have maybe 4 or 5 that have cleared it. And then you have to take into account some of the bigger servers where there's tons of groups that have cleared it. You know, the legacy servers, you know, Gilgamesh, you know, Sarkatanis, Excalibur, Hyperion. All these servers that have lots of clears. And selling Final Coil has become a thing. There are people out there with the title that have been paying for their clears. So don't be too surprised if you see somebody and you're like, really? Who did they beat it with? And you find out that they actually bought a run. So about 2 or 3%, not as many as you think. It's really in the places that you're hanging out. So this next question, it was a long one, so I read it ahead of time. There's a bit of a spoiler for Before the Fall Part 1. So what I like to do when I'm doing spoilers is when I do this, that means the spoiler is over. In case you want to skip past this question, it'll probably be about a minute or 2. So just wait for me to give you the cell going right now. Hi, Happy. Question from week 24. After the storyline and Before the Fall Part 1, we essentially lost... I just realized if it was a spoiler, they were going to read it in the question anyway. We essentially lost the power that made us the Warrior of Light due to the actions of Midgard-Summer. I've been wondering, do you think we'll ever see the Warriors of Darkness appear somewhere down the line? We already have a Dark Knight class coming in Heavensward. Could that be a hint? Also, since you're big into the lore, I think it's worth mentioning that at least some of the Ascians who represent darkness, despair, and evil in general share their names with the Scions of Light in Final Fantasy XII. I'm pretty sure they all share it. La Habrea and Nabrialis in particular. Interesting Easter egg, or could there be a hidden meaning? Are the Ascians truly evil? So I think okay, so first let me just break it down one by one. We lost the power to make us a Warrior of Light. I don't know that we necessarily, like, lost it. I think it's, in a way, sort of being suppressed, because Midgard-Summer himself is not like, oh, I hate Hydaelyn and I want to stop it. He is a creation of Hydaelyn in a sort of way. He's just sort of taken our bond with her, and we've created a new bond with him. So I think while we still are Warriors of Light, while we've lost some of our power, I don't think it's enough of a loss to, you know, really be that big of a deal. They'll probably play a part in the main stories at some point, but we all know the main story, we're going to win every time anyway. Warriors of Darkness, yeah, they can make an appearance. There's no reason why they couldn't. I mean, I thought we might even see them in, you know, Crystal Tower at some point, since they were sort of a big thing in Final Fantasy III. Dark Knight, I don't think that has anything to do with Warriors of Darkness. I think that's on a totally different level. And as for the Ascians, yeah, they are all pretty much representative of the Silence of Light in Final Fantasy XII, of Ivalice in general, not even just Final Fantasy XII. And I think that the Ascians being evil is a matter of perception. Their acts may not seem evil to them, and there may be people who agree with their acts to some degree, whereas, you know, we have our, you know, hopes and our god, they have their god. It's like sort of, I don't know. To us, they're evil pretty much because of the sacrifices they're willing to make in order to achieve their goal. But to them, I feel like they truly believe that their act is for the best of everything, and it's what they really want. They're completely different beings. They're not just humans who believe in this stuff. They are immortal beings. So, basically, I'm interested in seeing where it all goes. This is one of those questions I can't really put my whole heart into, because I would love to see certain outcomes, but I want to look at it objectively. So that's what we'll just go with for now. That's my answer, and spoiler over. Next question. How do you think Machinist turrets are going to work? Some people think they will work like summoner pets. I'm wondering if they won't somehow feed information back to the different attachments on your gun to buff you in some way, making the turret like stances or poisons that do damage. Also, do you think Machinist damage on their weapons will be equal to that of bards or melee weapons, since they're supposed to do more damage based and less support based? Well, I can tell you right now, bards, even with the damage they have on their weapons, are extremely good. Their damage would be pretty much on par with everyone else's if they didn't have to stop and sing songs, which is something that they should be doing. You know, I've seen a lot of really experienced bards be extremely competitive on their DPS numbers, and I don't think that the weapon damage is an issue. I do think if it keeps getting farther and farther from the melee weapon numbers and the caster weapon numbers, that it will become a problem eventually, but I do expect Machinist to share the same weapon damage on their weapons as Bard has, due to the fact they will still have all that mobility. As for the main question about the turrets, I'm more akin to thinking they'll work more like shaman totems from World of Warcraft, where they'll all be able to do different things. Some you can lay down and they will focus damage on a single target. Some you'll lay down and they'll give off a field with some sort of buff. I'm not saying they're going to be buff machines like Bard, but I think I'm not open to the idea like they're going to have a pet hotbar and all that. I think they're going to be, you know, turrets. They have placements. They do things in an area around that placement, and what they do depends on which turret you lay down. Since we've only seen 2 turrets, one of them doesn't really look like it's super offensive, but the other one looks like it's kind of, you know, gonna shoot you the whole time that you're near me. So I'm interested to see. My guess, though, is that they're going to be more like shaman totems and less like summoner pets. Next one. Hey, Mr. Happy. Love watching every week. Keep it up. Thanks, man. This isn't the lore thing. Question for you. Do you think we're going to get another companion 3.0? Listen, I still can't even queue into the duty finder with my companion now. The last thing I want is another one. The closest thing to another companion is they've mentioned the idea of taking groups of, you know, Gambit controlled NPCs into dungeons along with you as a single player and leveling those up. That's really more of a way just to give players the ability to solo dungeons while still being able to, while still being, like, I guess, level capped in a sense. The NPCs are smart enough to do the very, you know, simple fights that are in those duties. But I don't think we'll get another open world companion. I just don't see a reason for it, you know? Alright, so I saw a couple of questions in here about warrior and stat allocations. So, I'm going to read this question. I already know what the answer is going to be, though. Hey, Mr. Happy. Question for your Mondays with Mr. Happy number 27. With all the changes made in the patches until this point, could you please let us know what exactly I should go for warrior in terms of stat allocation? Someone said Vit, someone said Strength, so I don't know what to do. Please give us your perspective on this. Okay, and then the next question is about me making a video. Xeno's you should go check out Xeno's warrior videos. Those will give you the best idea of what you want to do. He's a huge proponent of the full strength build. I know a lot of warriors that are really big on the full strength build, but the idea behind it is while your gear is still weak, you use vitality, because meeting the HP checks for certain attacks is your first, you know, responsibility. As soon as you can survive those attacks comfortably, you take that 30 vit and switch it to strength, and then your gear just has to keep matching what it needs to be. And as long as you don't need more HP, you just go full strength. Full strength means more healing over the course of an entire fight, more healing, well, directly through your inner beast hits, more damage overall, which helps shorten the length of the fight. It has so many benefits that the extra HP, if you're surviving without it, the extra HP means absolutely nothing for you. So go check out Xeno's Warrior Guide. I think he has a recent one. I don't know what his last one was, but he's got a lot of really great stuff. Go check him out. Next one. Hi, Mr. Happy. Love your videos. Keep it up. Here is my question. Do you think that they will be adding new abilities for the older jobs when leveling up in Heavensward? Yeah. They are going to be adding new things. Everyone's guessing it'll be 2 class abilities, 2 job abilities, and 3 traits. That's just based on the way that it's pretty much worked up till this point. New job abilities every 5 levels, so people are expecting 55 and 60. I'm actually expecting 50, 55, and 60, a new ability at 50 as well. Then they're expecting, I think it's a new class ability at 52 and 56. And no, okay, so it's a new class ability at 54 and 58, and then a new trait at 52, 56, and 60. So that's what a lot of people are guessing. But yeah, we're going to be getting new stuff for the old jobs. Don't worry. And I'm honestly almost more excited for that than I am about the new jobs. I'm really curious to see what they add. Hey, Mr. Happy. I love when people, I feel like I can tell when people type these from their phone. Hey, my happy. Because Y and R aren't like that close to each other. Hey, my happy. Does 1227 in your name have any, does have any specific significance, or are you just the 1,227th person to want to be? It's my birthday, December 27th. So, that's a nice, easy one. Next one, Mr. Happy. If there is ever a Monster Hunter game you should find a way of playing, it's definitely Monster Hunter 4. It's going to be really awesome. I've heard great things about, I've heard people even going back and talking about the old Monster Hunters. I'm more and more tempted. I just don't like handheld systems, really. I hate looking at the small screen, and I know you can plug it in to a monitor and do it through that, but if I'm gonna get a 3DS, I'm also gonna get a capture card, which is another like $200 down the drain. So my big thing is I'm just not interested enough to the point where I'm willing to spend like $400 or $500 just to get a 3DS capture card and 1 game. It's like, basically at this point it would have to be like somebody's like, you have to play this, I'll donate like one of these things to you. And because otherwise I'm not interested enough to go out of my way to spend like $500 on that. Hello, Mr. Happy. Question for week 27. Can we expect a Bloodborne playthrough next month? I don't know how I'm going to find time to play that game with Type 0 coming out, though. That's going to be rough. I'm going to have to zerg down Type 0 somehow and be ready for Bloodborne the following week, but, yeah. I swear, it's become tradition for me to get questions like this every week. Question for week 27. Since you just pick questions, do you like Sid's Rack and Final Fantasy 15? Oh. Yeah. Alright, next question. When the time calls for it, is there a proper damage dealing rotation a scholar should use? I already understand that a scholar should try and upkeep their dots, minus Miasma 2, while weaving in Ruin 2 and Energy Drains. I'm curious to know if it would be better for a scholar to try and mimic the rotation of a summoner, or if there's an ideal. Yeah, it's pretty much similar. I mean, you have to take into account, you don't have Contagion, like you said, don't use Miasma 2. Poison Potions, every job can be and should be using these, especially during progression. Scholars no different, they just don't have the Contagion for it again. They Energy Drain instead of Fester. They lay down Shadow Flares. Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same rotation. You're just taking a few things out. Also, I understand Scholar doesn't really have MP issues, but if you can, use Ruin 1 instead of Ruin 2. It's less MP, the global cooldown's going to be shot anyway. Just use Ruin 1 instead of Ruin. Unless, of course, you're so overgeared for the fight, you Ruin 2 and then auto-attack with your book for that extra DPS. That hardcore extra auto-attack, book-smacking DPS. Alright, everyone, I have time for a couple more questions, so I'm going to pick 2 more, and then we're going to be done for this week. I want to thank everyone for their questions. Had a lot of really great ones this week, so let's jump right into this one. Hey, Happy, love the videos. Question for week 27. Since you started answering questions outside of Final Fantasy, I've got this question for you. You said you love RPGs, so what are your favorite niche and unheard of or underrated RPGs? Any you can suggest? That's tough. I did not play a lot of underrated or unheard of RPGs growing up. And that's not because I didn't hear of them. It's because I was just so wrapped up in Final Fantasy 11. I found that my hobby of gaming it came to like a standstill where I had pretty much just been like, oh, I play 11, I play when a new Final Fantasy game or new Kingdom Hearts game comes out. Some new games I play at like a friend's house or something like that. Like Lost Odyssey was an RPG. I think it was called Lost Odyssey at least. Now I don't even remember. Kingdoms of Amalur was pretty fun for like a few hours. You know, What's the game? This isn't a turn-based RPG. It's more like an action RPG, but Champions of Norath, which was an EverQuest type game for the PlayStation 2, that was an amazing game. Maybe I just remember it better. I liked it better when I was younger. I don't know if I'd like it now, but that was an amazing RPG game growing up. It's just not your normal turn-based RPG. For turn-based RPGs, I got nothing. Man, I miss so many RPGs growing up. And I'm not going to tell you which ones I miss, because you'll probably look at me like less of a person if I told you that. And the last question that I'm going to be answering, hello, Mr. Happy. Your guides are the best. Keep it up. Thanks, man. My question to you, what are your thoughts as to why, as of February 10th, 2015, Square Enix has yet to post to their site a pre-order or price for the physical collector's edition Heavensward? Also, okay, what is your guess as to how much it will cost? Spring is just around the corner. For me, I would need to save up a bit. Got bills to pay and all that. I'm guessing it's going to be over $100, but knowing an exact price a few months ahead of time would be nice to help budget things. So, you have to keep in mind, yes, spring's around the corner, but Yoshi P has joked around about it. Spring lasts all the way to, like, June 21st. I don't care, you know, I don't care what anybody says, you know, middle of June, this should be summer. Until June 21st, it is technically spring. And Yoshi P has sort of hinted towards a May or a June release for Heavensward. So I'm assuming the physical collector's edition will be limited, and I do agree. I think they'll be over $100, maybe like $120. Not too much over, but like $120 would be my guess. And I just don't think we've seen it yet because they're still in the finalizing process. I mean, we don't even have a release date yet, and I can't imagine that we'll get the collector's edition date or the collector's edition price before we actually get a release date. So I'd say just save up $100, put it aside, and then if you need to save up another $20, you should have enough forward notice to save up like another $20 or $30. That's what I think you're best off doing. Thank you, everybody, for your questions this week. It was another great week of Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'm going to get going. Thank you, everyone. Be sure to ask questions for next week, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.